We all gotta start somewhere, right? I remember when I was applying for my first job ever. And this was back when we actually printed off resumes, put on our Sunday best, and hit the pavement, applying in person. I was rejected more times than I can count. And I was always rejected because I had no experience.
I don't have any experience, but I'm a really hard worker and I am great with people.
Yeah, we're looking for someone with experience.
Yeah, sorry, no. Please leave.
Well, how do you get experience to get hired if you can't get hired to get the experience? In this video, I'm going to guide you through writing your first resume ever, or also a resume where you have no to very little experience. You'll want to watch this whole video because later I will take you through building your first resume step by step. Upcoming and recent college and university grads, freshers, I'm looking at you guys. If you want weekly tips, tricks, and advice that will help advance your job search faster, then you're in the right place. I post new videos every Tuesday and go live every Thursday. So make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell to get notifications for when I drop my next video. My videos will equip you with some of the most valuable information to make your job search easier, because job searching shouldn't be this hard. I'm Kamara Toffolo, resume writer, LinkedIn consultant, and job search strategist who helps established professionals dare to do work differently and land great fitting gigs. Having no work experience can feel like a really big obstacle to landing your first job, because it is. But how you can overcome this obstacle and kick off your career is by starting to embrace your studying and schooling, projects, and volunteer experience as your work experience. In an ideal world, you would have also had an internship or a co-op, but all is not lost if you've never had that. When you're creating your resume, it's your job to showcase your potential for the job that you're targeting. Which brings me to my first point about writing your resume. Get clear on your target job. This isn't just a step for the experienced, this is also for you. Before you do any resume writing, you need to be clear on what job you're actually targeting. You may be thinking, well, Kamara, I've never done the job before, so how do I know I want to do it? That's where career fairs, networking, informational interviews, all of that stuff comes in. But that is for another video. We're focused on resumes today. The reason you want to be so clear on your target job is because having that target informs the way you write your resume and also influences the stories that you share on your resume, all with the ultimate goal of making it make sense to your target employer in the context of your target job. After reading your resume, we want the reader to walk away with a picture in their mind of how you would fit into that role. So assuming that you're clear on your target role, let's dig into some types of experience that can translate into the work experience you might not have yet. So now let's talk about unofficial or possibly official experience. So now that you've identified the target job that you want to go after, we now need to think about the experience that you already have and how we can make that make sense to your target employer in your target job. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I talk a lot about the 5 R's framework. This framework is used to make experience make sense to your target employer in the context of your target job. In this case, we're looking at our first job ever. So what these 5 R's are is to reframe accomplishments and experience that we already have and mold it so that it is relevant to our target employer, relates to our target job, reinforces the skills that we've started developing or already have that are also desirable or required in our target job, and resonates with the target employer. We really want to speak their language. So when thinking about your unofficial experience, we need to consider a few different things. These include key projects, specifically key projects that demonstrate the skills or strengths that are desired or required in your target job. Perhaps you did these projects in school. They may have been theoretical, like case study based, or you may have actually had the chance to work with a client depending on your program. Key projects could also include self-directed projects that you've initiated on your own, or even passion projects. These count too if they're relevant and demonstrate the skills and strengths needed for your target direction. For example, I wrote a resume for a recent grad who really wanted to work for NASA or SpaceX. And in their spare time, they dabbled in STEM projects, which they thought were just for fun. But in reality, they were much more applicable than they first realized and really helped us position them for an engineer role. The next bit of unofficial experience that you would want to think about is volunteering or community leadership. I'm just going to give you a few examples here. Maybe you're targeting software developer roles, and you just so happen to be one of the organizers of your university's hackathon. Or maybe you're going after an accountant role, and you brought in a speaker from your local CPA chapter to talk about a career in accounting. This is all great and relevant experience. Don't ever assume that because work is unpaid, that it is unworthy of showing up on your resume. Now let's talk about the more official work experience, internships and co-ops. This is real world work experience, so don't let the label fool you. If you've had an internship or a co-op position, then you aren't in a no experience situation. With internships and co-ops, one of the biggest pitfalls that I see on new grad or upcoming grad resumes is that they oversell what they were responsible for and undersell what they accomplished. Our goal is to really highlight the positive outcomes and results we created as an intern or a co-op. Some questions to really get you thinking about these positive outcomes include: how did you support your supervisor or your sponsor? How did you make a difference for them? What was it specifically? How did you improve a way of doing work, like a process or a procedure? What did you build during your internship or co-op? And what did it enable for the company or their clients? Next, let's talk about actual jobs that aren't in your field. Some of you may have had jobs that were part-time or even full-time while you were still going to school. First, I applaud you. In order to pay for my own education, I worked part-time all the way from grade 10 into college, and then I worked full-time during university. I know how tough it can be to manage all of those things, but this shows how capable you are of handling a lot of stuff all at once. It also shows that you have skills. I believe that every skill is transferable. A skill doesn't only have a place at one organization. So with that said, similar to my recommendation with highlighting accomplishments from your internships and co-ops and projects, I want you to put yourself in your future employer's shoes and think about what skills or strengths did I demonstrate in my part-time or full-time role that are desired or required in my target job. So let's say you worked at a coffee shop while you were going to university, and now you're targeting a role in data analytics. This seems totally unrelated, right? But is it? While working at the coffee shop, I would pretty much guarantee that you collaborated with your team. That's a skill you'll need in data analytics. So maybe highlight an accomplishment about how you helped your team work more effectively. And while at the coffee shop, I bet you served customers. In data analytics, and every other job for that matter, you will always have a customer. In a data analytics role, you will probably have an internal stakeholder as a customer. Maybe highlight outstanding feedback that you received from a customer, or how high you ranked in customer satisfaction if this was something that was measured. And if you really want to level up, think of highlighting a time at the coffee shop where you used your analysis skills to identify either a gap in service, a gap in a process, some sort of inefficiency, an inventory issue. There are so many possibilities to consider where you can actually show that you have analysis skills that you were already building in your part-time job. So now that we've covered the thinking and the pre-work behind writing our resumes, when we have no experience or very little experience, let's dive into building that actual resume. What I really want to show you in building a resume is that you do not need a template. And I would actually strongly discourage using a template. You can learn why I discourage that by watching my video on resume templates, which I've linked in the description below. Instead, you can build the structure of your resume, or the resume bones as I like to call them, yourself in Microsoft Word very easily. Okay, so here we are with a blank Word document, and I truly believe that we can all build our resume starting from a blank Word document. And I always recommend that you use Word because that's the standard in hiring. So Google Docs seems like it could work, but the problem is when you convert it to an actual docx file, some of the formatting can get a bit confused and doesn't translate well. So I always recommend building your resume in Word. Okay, so first let's make sure that our margins are the right size. So we just go to page layout, margins, and if you've seen my video on margins and setting your resume margins, I recommend 1.5 centimeters all the way around. So that's taken care of. Super easy. Next, we need to start putting our contact information. So we start with our name. And then right underneath that, I like to put a title for the resume. So the title would be the job to which you're applying. So let's say that's data analytics specialist. Okay. And then underneath that, we want to put our contact information. So we just need our city and province or state, our phone number, our email address, and make sure you hyperlink that, and your LinkedIn URL, and make sure you hyperlink that as well. Make sure you check out my videos on hyperlinking your email and your LinkedIn URL. Okay, so now that we've entered that, it doesn't look the greatest. It looks pretty plain. So let's add a little bit of formatting flavor to our header so it looks a little more eye-catching. Now first, let's address the fact that there's a space in between these lines. We want to remove space after paragraph. And I like to capitalize the names on my clients' resumes. So we'll go capital and we'll make that big because that looks really nice from a design standpoint. And then the title, we'll make that bigger, maybe add a 14. And the contact information can stay as it is. Actually, we'll even drop it down to a 10. Okay. And then maybe we want to add a line or some shading, whatever you feel like. For me, I like to put a line in the header underneath the title to separate it from the contact information. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go down a couple spaces and we'll bring our font up to an 11 because that is generally the font size that I like to go for. 10 is the absolute minimum. So here, this is where you build your professional summary or profile paragraph. So I'm just gonna put some lines in here as placeholders. Okay, so basically what we have here is, or what we want to insert here is a description about ourselves, our strengths, the way we could be a really great fit for the role that we're applying to. So a data analytics specialist in this case. Okay, so next let's build our skills section. I just copied that to keep the formatting consistent, and we'll just call it signature skills. And then we'll go down a line and center it up, and I'm just putting placeholders in here for now. And this is the easiest way that I build skill sections, which is to center up the actual skills rather than using columns, which can get a little difficult to format. This is really the easiest way. And so in your skills section, you're doing a couple things. You're identifying the skills you've already built or have started building or have acquired through your schooling. And this also secures you some keyword points. What's most important is giving accomplishments in your resume, which we're going to talk about shortly. We do need the skills section though to give a quick snapshot of how we're qualified. And then for each of the skills that we note here, we're going to back it up with accomplishments from either our projects, volunteering, leadership, or actual work experience later on in our resume. Okay, so that's our skills section. Next, we definitely want to put our education section. And rather than make you wait for me to type this out, I'm just going to quickly plug this in. So here we've got our education section, but first I want to point out how to format the dates properly on your resume. So I have a video specifically about aligning dates along the right-hand margin, which is where they should live. But let's walk through it here as well. So if you look towards the left-hand corner here, you see an L. If we click in the white space, we can convert it to a backwards L, which is actually right tab. Then what we do is we click on the ruler here and then drag it across to the right margin to be flush with the right margin. So then all we need to do to separate our credential from our actual graduation date is to tab once. Now we've got the date perfectly aligned on the right-hand side. Okay, and with our education, we want to lead with our actual credential. So say Bachelor of, our program name, major, minor, then the post-secondary institution name, the city and province or state, and then the GPA if it's requested in the job posting. If you have a particularly low GPA, I would recommend that you leave it right out so that as to not cause yourself issues. Okay, and then further to what we were talking about earlier about key project highlights, you can include a couple bullets underneath your education that really showcase highlights from projects where you have demonstrated the skills that are required or desired in the target job. So now let's talk about the experience, bringing in that unofficial or official experience. So earlier we were talking about possible unofficial experience coming from ongoing projects, self-directed projects, passion projects. And so this is where you can note it under your experience section. So maybe I would call it something like ongoing development, in this case, ongoing data analytics development and projects. And then I would give it the date range from when you started dabbling in data analytics projects. So make sure our date is right aligned. And let's say it's January 2019 to present. Okay, we don't need an employer because it's just self-directed. And then what I would do is include a few, maybe 2-3 lines that talk about why you dabble in these projects, what type of data analytics projects you typically dabble in, what skills you're developing. And then I would include a couple highlights around what you've learned through your ongoing project work. So it would look something like this. Okay, and so it's really that easy to bring projects that you thought were just for fun into your actual experience section. So now let's take a look at how you might integrate volunteering into this section. Let's continue on with that example we were talking about earlier, software developer who may have organized their university's hackathon. So this is how it might look. While the role isn't paid, that doesn't mean that it's not worthy of putting on the resume. So we want to treat it as real work. The short paragraph that we want to build should include some information around the role itself, the responsibilities, how you were involved. And then the bullets that follow underneath that would include accomplishments that relate to your target job and show that you've been building or have already built skills needed, required, desired in your target job. So now let's see how this shifts slightly for work experience like an internship or co-op. So as you can see, our approach to describing the role is very much the same. We're giving some context in that small paragraph, and then we're backing it up with actual accomplishments of things you built, things you created, things you made better and improved, how you may have helped a particular group of stakeholders at the company, anything that you did that created a positive outcome as it relates to your target job now is what you want to include in a bullet here. The paragraph itself is just for more the responsibilities and mandate of the role. One other shift is in the subheader here. I would change this to work experience. Rather than just experience, I would call it work experience. And finally, if we want to bring in any experience from our work as, say, a coffee shop employee, we can either keep it under the work experience, or we can create a separate section for that work. If we have, say, done an internship or done the projects or done the volunteering that we looked at before, and we want to separate out, let's say, what we might feel is unrelated work experience. And what we can do is call it other work experience. And so that's how we might make it look. Again, the approach is the same, where we're giving a paragraph or writing a small paragraph, giving context to the role, and then including a couple bullets to highlight accomplishments that translate to our target job. So in the case we were looking at before, we were talking about collaboration with teams, making the team function better or with greater efficiency. We were also talking about possibly if this person did some work, let's say it was still the data analytics target, if they did some work analyzing, say, inventory, processes, what have you, highlighting that and demonstrating that they had used their analysis skills, as well as they could bring forward any customer service accomplishments that they might want to highlight. And really, it's that easy to build your first resume from scratch with a blank Word document.
And there you have it, your first resume that you built with your own two hands. You should be very proud. Just to recap, don't stress too much about not having experience. We all do start somewhere. Make sure to check out my office hours interview with Luke Henderson, co-op student advisor at the world's largest co-op program. He offers a lot of job searching insights which will help you land your first professional job. I've linked the video in the description below. Also, your first employer is really going to be hiring you based on your potential, not your merit. Make sure to watch my friend Amy Miller's recent video on job searching for new grads, which I've also linked in the description below. She dives into a lot of really important information about effectively engaging the right recruiters as a job searching new, upcoming, or recent grad. And here's my cue for you. How will you be changing your resume after watching this video? How are you feeling about searching for your first professional job? What questions are still unanswered for you? Tell me anything and everything in the comments below. I make a lot of videos, but I also make free guides to help you in your job search. If you're writing your resume for the first time, then you're probably writing a cover letter for the first time. And I've got you covered. If you'd like my free cover letter guide and checklist, check out the link in the description below and sign up for it. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like, share it with a friend, and click on my face over there and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.